教えて教えてよその仕組みを
What's up guys, Cass here from GiveWave Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to turn all these parts you see here into this awesome Irimi Kaya mask from Tokyo Ghoul, including a on-off switch for your LED light up eye. Alright, let's get to it. So we're first going to get started with these two pieces. Right? What we're going to do is want to glue these right here up against each other. But do be careful because these are laser cut parts, which means that any part that you're going to glue together, you need to actually sand down a little bit to expose the foam and that it can glue to itself properly. If you guys take a look at this surface versus this surface, you can tell that this is still jagged and kind of cut up and scorched by the laser, whereas this was smoothed out a little bit. This is going to allow your barge to stick to itself a little better. So we're going to go ahead and put these two sides together as well as these two, and then I'll catch you guys on the next step. Alright guys, so as I'm putting this together, I'm putting the two surface edges flush with each other, and I'm just kind of following that curve into the piece. And this is what your piece should look like more or less after you're done. Alright guys, so now we're moving on to these three parts, which are going to be the bottom jaw part of the build, and we're going to glue these two bottom halves here and here with the curve together, and then we're going to do the front of the jaw right here. So we're gonna heat this up first, and we're gonna curve our parts a little bit. All right, so I've heated one of my parts, and I'm just gonna put a slight curve onto the jaw, just going down almost like the center of the part, curving outwards on both ends. And you wanna end up with something that looks like this. So we went from this flat piece to something that's curved like that, and we want to do that to both sides with the curves facing each other on the inside. All right, we're also going to give this a little bit of a curve also, and you do want to make sure that the part that has the etch line here faces the outside when you glue this together, because this is going to help you with the alignment when we do the other parts. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that, put them together, and catch you at the next step. All right, pieces are, glue is ready to be put together. So we're going to start with our inner pieces, lining that up. Just making sure that what's going to be my outside is nice and aligned, so I reduce my seams there. And then once I've gotten the outer edges done, I'll just kind of bend it back into itself, so I start seeing the shape of that bottom jaw, which is going to be something like this. You guys can already kind of see it, kind of like snouty, but towards the bottom. And then we're going to grab this piece that we were talking about earlier, and we're going to start at this corner here, or you know, the other corner if you prefer, and then just bring this down into itself, well, not itself, but like the other piece, and keep this moving on all the way over here. All right, now we have a bottom jaw. All right, gonna move on to the next step. All right, now we're gonna work on these three parts. This is gonna consist of the snout and almost just sort of kind of the majority of the face, really. You'll notice that there are these lines in here. Once we heat it up real quick, I'm going to show you guys what those are for. All right, I'll catch you guys at that step. All right, so with our parts heated up, we're going to give this a slight curve, right? So it looks a little bit like this and not as straight. You don't want to overdo it too much on this piece. It really doesn't need that much. So as soon as we have that on there, we can kind of put that aside. We're going to start working on this. You really want to put a good amount of heat on this, because we're going to do quite a good amount of shaping. So what we're going to be doing is where this line is, we're going to fold that over onto itself and kind of start putting in a bit of a curve on it. So like slide your finger, or you can grab a Sharpie the back of a Sharpie to just kind of push that piece out a little bit and start forming this snout part. And if you're having a hard time, you can go ahead and just kind of reapply heat or just overextend it a little bit to really get the curve in there, and then just take it out just a little bit. All right, so as you can tell, we have like this curve down here, and then we're gonna work in a curve down here also along this line coming in. So I'm gonna go ahead and reheat a little bit because foam doesn't feel as warm. Be careful when you reheat, especially around a side that you've already curved. It'll tend to just kind of want to take its shape back. Not by much, but like here I kind of lost this a little bit, so I'm just going to bring that back in. Okay, I'm also going to start doing my curve out here on that part of the jaw. Alright, now as you can tell, we've gotten a nice curve on our piece. Okay, much different than this flat piece that we still haven't done. Obviously you're going to do this to both sides because it is a symmetrical thing that we're putting together. Alright, so once we have our nice curve here on top and the nice curve here at the bottom, what we're going to do is just do like those makeup tutorials. We're going to give it some contour. We're going to sink in between the two curves out. We're going to sink this in a little bit and just kind of fade that forward. All right, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's a nice little inner curve here now. So we're literally going to do the same thing to this part. All right, guys, so we have both of our pieces nice and shaped off, looking very canine already. So we're gonna grab all three of our pieces and we're going to glue the three pieces together, but only focusing on the front. Okay, so as I'm gluing these and putting these together, do keep in mind that this piece goes on the inside of this piece. All right, so right along here, okay? All right, pieces are dry, ready to put together. So again, follow your seam lines from the surface. It's okay if you take your curve out as you put these together, and just make sure that they fall back in line with each other and sit flush when they meet up, like so. Okay, so they're connected. And then now we're gonna put this, so you wanna start this one out from the center seam. Make sure that that meets up right where that ends, right there. All right, same thing on this side. Follow that curve. Bring this down and make sure that they meet up right at their edges when you end. And you can kind of see this starting to come together. All right, let's move on to the next step. Now on to the nose. This part's fairly simple. Grab a ruler and give yourself approximately 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here. Right, hoping you guys can see my marks, like right here and right there. So you go from this corner here, 1/2 inch, this corner here, 1/2 inch, and then you're literally gonna curve these into themselves and glue it so that the two parts touch. All right, so now we're gonna glue these parts together and just take it step by step with you guys. Now do always remember that you wanna sand down if the part feels rough and you feel like it has the burns of the laser. Do make sure you sand it down a little bit to expose the foam, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and curve this into itself. Gonna touch my first mark and my second mark. Glue that. I'm gonna bring this over, do the same thing on this side. Gonna touch my first mark, second mark, glue things on this side, and then guess what? We have a nose. All right, simple as that. there it is. Okay, let's move on to the next step. All right, next up, we're gonna work on these two pieces. These are going to become the brows. As you can tell, they're very menacing. Look how angular they are. And what we're gonna do with these, this is probably the process that's probably the most tedious out of this build, because what you're going to want to do is sand these edges down. So because these are gonna connect right here, you're not sanding the connection here. You're only sanding this top part here and this bottom part down here. All right, so these stay flat. You don't have to worry about those. So basically, something like this is something like this. You see how I have like a nice curved edge onto this piece? It's no longer just flat and angular anymore. You can do this a couple of ways. If you're really going the analog way, you can get yourself some sanding sticks. This is basically sandpaper glued onto paint stirrers. Evil Ted has a good tutorial on how to put these together. Go ahead and check that out. You can do it straight up with just sandpaper, of course, different grits going down to the different levels. Or if you can invest in a Dremmel, this will be a lifesaver for your cosplay. You can get this done a lot faster. And I'll show you guys a little bit what I mean and just kind of take you guys through the process. I'm gonna turn this on. I have a good sanding bit on here. I'm gonna go ahead and... All right, and obviously you would grab this once you're done with everything and heat seal it to close up the foam. Okay, everything's nice and tapered and sanded. Edges are softened. Just gonna glue these two together. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through that process. Catch you guys at the next step. All right, I'm gonna get something like these. Okay, and now let's move on to the next step. All right, now time to assemble this bad boy. So we have most of our pieces assembled. First thing we're gonna do is grab our bottom jaw, okay, and the inner of the face here, and we're gonna glue these parts together. All right, I'm gonna grab my jaw, put it right up against that line, tack this down, and go ahead and bring this over right up against the other line. All right, make sure you force the foam to go exactly where you want it to go. You're the boss of it. Okay, and basically we have it right there. As you guys can see, the seams lined up exactly as they should if you do this step correctly, and it's not really hard at all. It's just make sure you follow the lines. And then this also becomes kind of like a chin guard to make sure that your face doesn't go too forward into the snout of the mask. So this is what this piece is for, if you guys were wondering. All right, so next step we're going to take is now we're going to grab the top of the face, the main snout, and we're going to start by gluing it. See where this lines up? We're going to put some barge there and line those puppies exactly like so. And once we've done that, we're going to bring this over and we're going to line this here like so, with this outer line here, not this inner line, right? All right, so I've glued down this one. I'll go ahead and take this over. You're gonna feel some resistance from the foam, but that's perfectly okay. You just wanna make sure that you glue this up against that seam, cover it, tack it down, and there we go. All right, we're getting somewhere, okay? Obviously, jaw's gonna tuck in on the inside. And then the next thing we're gonna do is you'll notice that this doesn't quite line up. So what you're gonna do is just force this to line up right here so that this edge touches the back end of this. And at this point, you kind of like grab a marker and mark this area off for yourself. And now we know that we're going to put glue all up in this area and all up in this area. Now move on to the inside. Okay, so now we have our marks for where we need to put the rest of our glue so that we can put everything together. One thing that you want to do at this point also, grab your light. Make sure that this is kind of flush against the edge so that when you're searching for it to turn it on, you can kind of find it easily by feeling for the on-off switch. And then just kind of trace where this falls here, and extend your lines past here and also here. And now you know that this general area here, when you put your glue down, don't put glue here. That way, once this is glued down, you can grab an X-Acto, cut this right out, and that'll give you the exact spot that you need so you can glue your battery pack for your lights on the inside. Sounds good? All right, I'm gonna fast forward through the next steps. Contact cement is ready. Again, I'm gonna force this to line up. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, right up against the back edge. Okay. And you should have like a little pucker here on the side of the lips. All right, tuck that in if you want, or you could leave it out. And then just attach our insides just how we planned. Right there. And these right here. And remember, we didn't put glue under here or under here, so this should be free for us to cut. All right, so grab yourself an X-Acto. Go ahead and make your cut. Take this right out. And now there's room for our battery pack to sit nice and snug, and it doesn't protrude too much toward our face. And then we'll organize the electronics in a little bit. All right, next step. So now we're gonna grab our little nose piece. We're just gonna slide that into place. What you're looking for here really is, you see how there's a little bit of an edge right there, right? You want this edge to just kind of sit right up against the seam there. That way it's like nice and even all around. Okay, so you can go ahead and grab your marker, put your markings so that you know exactly where you're going to be putting your glue. Mark it all around. Right, then you're going to put your barge on the inside, barge on the tip of the nose, and you're going to glue that together. Gonna go ahead, fast forward, and catch you guys for the next step. All right, and we're going to grab our nose piece, start right at the little bottom edge here, and then follow that around. All right, make sure you open the nose wide as you're going around, because you don't want a part to stick before you want it to. And everything should fall as it should. And we have a nose. Sniff, sniff, sniff. All right, so next piece we're gonna grab is our brow. And with this one, again, this line right here, we're gonna go ahead and follow this. So we're gonna place this right up against the edge, flush with the top here. Right? And you'll notice that as you curve this over, the seams don't quite align. This is perfectly normal. What you want to do is, when we glue this together, you're going to glue it at the seam, you're going to glue it at the beginning here, and then you're going to force the foam to kind of sit in place. Right now I'm just holding it there, and you can see it's pretty flush, so it'll do exactly that. So it's also a good idea to mention before you start gluing this, to kind of get a general sense of where you want the rest of the glue to go, because you will be gluing the brow to this side of the face also, and also down here. So just kind of, this doesn't have to be exact, just give yourself line up with the line and flush back here, curve it around, and just kind of give yourself a general outline of where you want to put your glue. Right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my time and do this one along with you guys. Okay, so I have my parts down here glued. I've glued this. I'm gonna drag this over, bending it, putting it right at the seam. Right, and now, as you can tell, I have this gap left here, and now what I'm going to do is literally just grab the foam from the bottom and force it to sit in place, just like that. All right, as you're doing this, make sure that your brow doesn't get glued on just yet. So once you've glued the front, go ahead and line your brow out. Brow up. Line your brow up. Why was that so hard? With the bridge of the nose, like that. And then bring that around and make it touch. You'll notice that there's still a very big gap here. This is still open. All of this is gonna get glued straight down, all right? So I'm gonna start on the outside to make sure that it curves left and right nice and evenly. So go ahead and glue those down. All right, once I've done that, focus my attention on the inside and glue this up against the snout, like so. All right, so next step, we're gonna grab our ears. You'll notice that there is a part that's curvy and a part that's a little flat. So the part that's curvy actually follows the outer curve here. All right, same thing on either side. We're gonna heat this up fairly quickly. We're done heating up. We're gonna give this just a little bit of bend to give the ears a little shape. All right. Nothing too crazy, just a slight curve inwards. We get like this nice perked up doggy ear look. All right, we're gonna do the same for this piece. I'll catch you guys at the next. All right, so with our ears shaped, okay, remember this curvy edge belongs to this curvy back here. So we're gonna start gluing this. Remember how we had the inner brace? So this is literally what it gets glued to right here on the edge, and then it follows that edge and gets glued behind this piece here, right? So it glues on the side here, on the inside, follows that same path here, but also glues on the inside here. All right, so before I continue, this will be a good time to mention to always remember that whenever you're gonna glue something to an edge, make sure to grab some sandpaper and get rid of the char from your laser cut parts. All right, we're ready to glue. All right, so I've installed my first one. As you can tell, it just kind of looks like it follows the brow. So I'm gonna start at my edge here, right behind the brow, and then just follow that edge, bring it down here, and then press it up against the wall of the face right here. All right, we're getting somewhere. Okay, all right, so this next step is a controversial one, because in the anime and the manga, really, the cutout for the eye is fairly simple. I find that adding a little bit more kind of like damage to it looks a lot better. So you're going to get a laser cut sheet of the same damage that I'm about to do on this one now. So if you want to do it exactly like I did, you can do that. If you want to do it like the anime or the manga, you can go ahead and do your own. So I'm gonna go ahead and start drawing the pattern on this. What you want to remember is that you don't want to go too far back if you are doing your own pattern, because what's going to happen is you need this part here in order to put your straps, and we haven't gotten to that step yet. But you don't want to go too far back because this is made out of foam. It becomes super flimsy on the sides here if there's not enough material here to actually hold it together. All right, so now that we have this in here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab an X-Acto knife and cut this up. All right, I'm gonna fast forward through this process, catch you guys at the next step. All right, piece is all cut out. Go ahead and bring that out. And now we have the hole for the eyes. If you want to add a little bit more detail, you can always go ahead and grab your X-Acto and do a little scoring here and there to add like some cracks. Going down from there. You can always draw this out first. I'm kind of freestyling it right now. Do a couple of nicks, a couple of gashes on the sides. Again, you can go as crazy as you want. Once you're done, you're gonna grab your heat gun and you're gonna heat up those areas that you just cut up. And after a while, it should start opening up a little bit. All right, so as you can see, I got some nice like cracks going on in the mask. Now this is definitely if you want to do this aesthetic, you don't have to. It's just a little extra detail that you can add to add a little bit more depth to the piece. And then you can go back in from the underside and kind of push those things out, so you kind of open those gashes out a little bit more, the ones that are on the 5mm foam at least. All right, so paint booth time. First thing we're gonna do is coat this with some Plastidip. Once our Plastidip has dried, it should take about 15 to 30 minutes, depending if you have a fan going on it or how open air you are. Now we're gonna hit this with some any type of gloss paint, Krylon, Valspar, any one of those brands work. All right. So we have our finished piece painted. Now the next step is going to be to put in our elastic strap. Now what you want to do for you personally is just kind of figure out how much of this you need, if you need all of it, if you need less. And then once you've wrapped this around your head and found like a nice tightness for it, you're going to put it right here. So right where we had put the battery up initially. And then obviously on the other side, on the opposite side. So we're just gonna hot glue this in place, all right? All right, once it's nice and installed and sturdy, you can go ahead. So we're gonna move on to the next part. We're gonna grab this little sanded plastic piece that gets sent out with your part. All right, so when you place this inside of your piece, okay, you can grab a pencil or whatever you have available to you and just kind of mark off the general area that's going to be glued. So as you can see here, I know that this general area up here is going to get glued. This is going to make it easier for us to kind of paint me a giant iris, and I'm going to paint the rest of it black. Alright, so once your piece is painted, go ahead and put some hot glue right there and attach it where you see fit. Alright, go ahead and fast forward through that process. Okay, so once your eye is installed, go ahead and grab your LED and you're gonna give it a bit of a, kind of like a 45-degree bend. Right? And how you're gonna install this is you're gonna put the LED in the hole this way. You guys can see this, the LED this way, and then just kind of run the wires up and across. And you can tape this down with like duct tape or even hot glue. This way the wire is hidden when you look at it from the outside and you can't tell. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through that process and catch you guys at the final step. All right, so once my LED is put in, I'm gonna grab some tape just to kind of keep the wire from moving around, okay, while you're wearing the mask. So just put a little something down right there. And then guess what? Boom. Light up Kaya eyes. And that's it, guys. Congratulations. If you made it this far, you've completed your Irimi Kaya GiveWave Studios DIY kit. If you guys have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Try to reply to them as much as possible. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, cheers. Peace.